Hi, welcome to the video. Hopefully you've all had a fantastic holiday and you've been busy doing enough study, preparing for your exams. It's all happening at the moment for you. Today's video is all about vague analysis. Vague analysis is a topic that I've identified as an area for improvement from your paper one essays, which I thought I would make a video about, just in the hopes that you would watch the video, maybe think about how you can apply it to your own writing, and maybe practice writing analytical paragraphs, writing paper one responses, and using this technique to help to improve the quality of your writing. So let's get straight into it. Okay, so like I said, today we're going to be talking about avoiding vague analysis and discussion in a paper one. So we're going to be looking at what is vague analysis, why is vague analysis problematic, how can we avoid vague analysis. We'll be looking through some worked examples, then we'll finish with a bit of a summary. So let's start with what is vague analysis. So vague analysis or vague discussion is writing, is analysis, is discussion, is sentences that lack specificity. That is, in a paper one, it lacks focus on the guiding questions and the particular ideas, themes, concerns, and authorial choices drawn to respond to the guiding question. Essentially, it's not answering the why. Often the issue is the statement could be made about any passage, any article, any cartoon that we study. The links to the guiding questions are usually lost outside of sometimes a mentioned keyword. So the real problem that we're seeing here is that the writing is not specific to the particular guiding question. It's not specific to the particular article. It's just vague, broad statements that don't really say anything about the topic. They're not useful in actually driving quality writing and driving quality discussion. So it's important that we're able to avoid vague discussion. It's important that we're able to write specific analysis that actually targets specific authorial choices, that actually targets specific ideas, that actually targets specific words and concepts that we're looking for in the guiding question and the article. And we need to do this in a very purposeful manner. Now, vagueness in a topic sentence appears slightly different to vague discussion, and today we're going to be looking at both. Logically, I want you to question yourself. Okay, when you are writing, question whether the statement that you're writing relates to the guiding question. Does the statement address the topic sentence? Does the statement relate to an explicit authorial choice? Have you answered the why? Do you need to elaborate and clarify your meaning? Okay. The question is, could the sentence that you've just written be written about any article we've possibly looked at? That's the question you're asking yourself. If your answer is yes, it could, then you probably need to rephrase that sentence to make it more specific, because it has to be specific to the article and ultimately specific to the guiding question. So examples of vague discussion are things like that an authorial choice provides meaning. So the use of personification, which is a common technique identified from the cartoon, from the exam, provides meaning. The question is, what meaning? You can basically say that any example of personification, any authorial choice provides meaning, gives insight into the topic. What insight? What topic? Creates emotion. Which emotion? Okay. What? And for what? Why would you want to create an emotional response? And sometimes the following sentence is going to actually explain that. That's when the sentence doesn't quite become as vague, but it's still problematic. Because just identify a specific emotion. Is it sadness? Is it despair? Is it a joy? Is it elation? Whatever it is, Rather than saying creates emotion, say creates elation, creates joy, creates sadness, creates depression. That's a lot more specific and is actually going to improve the quality of your writing. Because your following sentence is not going to have to clarify which emotion. You're going to be able to just jump into your discussion, actually showing how the emotion supports the development of your discussion, supports the discussion of your guiding question. Okay, so other examples, this quote shows that an example of the use of figurative language is, again, you might be following up with a sentence that's really analytical. Okay, and in that case, I can accept having a sentence like this, but it's when the following sentence doesn't do any clarification that you fall into a problem. Okay, so the issue is that the discussion must relate to the guiding question. That's the real problem that we're seeing. So I want us to just target the article from the practice exam. Okay, so the guiding question that we were looking at in this exam was discuss how visual features are used in this text to underline a serious message. Now, in a following video, I'm going to show you how to break down this guiding question and essentially what the question is asking us to look for and asking us to discuss when guiding ourselves through the actual cartoon. But essentially, the guiding question is asking us, how does the cartoon make plastic pollution seem like an important, a serious, a significant issue? How does it make plastic pollution seem like it's urgent? How does it make it seem like it's something that we need to act on right now? That's really what the article, the cartoon is asking us to look for and asking us to discuss. Okay, that's where we're guided to in our analysis. So, and there's another approach you could potentially take that probably isn't going to drive as significant a response and as probably as focused a response, and that is, how does it underline the message of plastic pollution? Now, that is going to be more vague in its discussion just because it's way more broader. How is plastic pollution generally discussed is a lot more broad than how is the message conveyed in a serious way. How is the importance of the issue highlighted? It's going to be a lot more specific. You're still going to be talking about plastic pollution in either way. It's just that when you're looking at it from how is it conveyed in a serious way, how is it conveyed in a significant way, you're looking at it in a lot more smaller scope, which is what we want because it's going to lead to more focused and better discussions. So, this is a worked example, okay? So topic sentences should be explicit in how they address the topic sentence. Sorry, in how they address the guiding question. They should address a focused, specific idea rather than the broad concepts of the extract. So you're not just looking at the article or the cartoon discusses plastics pollution. That's not really specific enough for you to actually engage in the proper discussion. It needs to actually be specifically embedded in the guiding question. Okay? So you must be identifying and exploring the serious messages posed by the cartoon. How is it conveyed in a serious way? Each topic sentence needs to introduce one part of the seriousness of this message. So, for example, and this is an example of a topic sentence that actually appeared in one of your essays. So the cartoon employs visual features to make people think about the message. Some issues here. Obviously, it doesn't really convey and embed itself in the cartoon itself. Quite broad. Obviously, it doesn't specifically relate to a particular visual feature, so we can focus more there. So some things that we would want to be looking at here. So I guess the problem is, what message are we thinking about here? So think about what message. And the second one, the cartoon employs visual features to make people consider environmental concerns. A little bit better. We've actually clarified what the message is. It's about environmental concerns. But now we come to the question of what concerns. What concerns are being discussed here? We can get more specific. The cartoon employs visual features to make people consider the environmental damage caused by plastics. Now we've clarified the environmental concerns. It's the environmental damage caused by plastics. But now the question becomes, what visual features? Okay, so what visual features? And we might say, okay, the visual features are personification. Okay, so we say, okay, the cartoon employs personification to make people consider the environmental damage caused by plastics. And now we want to say, okay, what kind of environmental damage? Okay, what kind of environmental damage is being done here? We might want to say, in order to highlight the very serious personal risks the issue poses, the cartoon employs personification to make people consider the environmental damage caused by plastics. And then lastly, it's not just about the environmental damage caused by plastics, but it's a particular type of environmental damage caused by plastics. It's about the personal risk. It's about highlighting the personal risk, because the personal risk is why it's serious. It's serious because it's going to impact us. Okay, so that the cartoon actually says, you need to act on this. You need to act in it because it's a serious issue, and it's a serious issue because it's hurting us. It's hurting us as readers, hurting us as human beings. And that's the question you need to ask. How does plastic pollution actually hurt us? Okay, and that's what the last part of that blue topic sentence there is. Okay, so in order to highlight the very serious personal risk the issue poses, the cartoon draws upon personification, our visual feature, in order to emphasize the personal role each individual plays in the accumulation of plastics in the ocean. Okay, so the seriousness of the issue is conveyed through the visual feature personification in order to highlight the personal risk the issue poses, the issue being the role that each of us plays in the accumulation of plastics in the ocean. Okay, so this is a serious issue because it's hurting us as individuals, and we need to take action because we are responsible for that plastics in the first place. Okay, essentially each sentence here has made the topic sentence more specific. It's made the topic sentence less vague. Now, ultimately, if you got to number 4, you'd be sitting pretty. It's a pretty good topic sentence. But I think that the environmental damage caused by plastics is probably not specific enough to the actual personal risk that you're looking to discuss. So you probably want to take that just a little bit further. It just makes it more specific to the actual topic sentence and leads to a more cohesive topic sentence. Okay, so topic sentences. We want to make sure that the topic sentences explicitly addresses the guiding question. We want to embed it in that topic sentence. We want to embed our discussion of the guiding question in our topic sentence. Okay, and we're essentially introducing an idea, introducing a way the cartoon suggests that plastics pollution is serious. In this case, it's because this is going to directly impact us as readers. 1, because it's going to hurt us. 2, because we're responsible for that plastic. Okay, our actions as consumers lead to plastics entering the waterways, and once it's in the waterways, it's hurting us in various ways. Maybe it gets into a fish and then we eat the fish, whatever it is. Okay, there's this idea that we are plastic that's being conveyed through the entire cartoon. Okay, so we've got this idea. Topic sentence. In order to highlight the very serious personal risk the issue poses, the cartoon draws upon personification in order to emphasize the personal role each individual plays in the accumulation of plastics in the ocean. Okay, that's our topic sentence. Essentially, Okay, so we have established the way the cartoon conveys the seriousness of plastics pollution. Now we need to analyze how that message is conveyed through visuals combined with language and structures. Okay, so a start point is going to be visuals because that is what our guiding question is asking us to look at. But we can combine those visuals and say, okay, visuals convey the ideas in this way, and then interwoven with those visuals are language and structures, and they work together to convey meaning. So we don't have to look at visuals in isolation. We can look at how they work together with language and structures to convey a serious message. That can be done. Okay. So essentially, we're arguing the cartoon suggests the issue is serious because it is a risk to each of us. How is that achieved? Okay. So we look at the cartoon. Look at the cartoon. Okay. How is this cartoon suggesting plastic pollution is a risk to each of us? Okay. That's essentially the question we're asking here. 1, the plastic is everywhere and it's killing us. We are becoming plastic. It's conveying the idea that this is a moral issue. Okay, it is hurting us because it's immoral for us to not take action. We are the one doing this. We are the one responsible. And thus, all of these things reinforce guilt. That's the action that's being made here. 1, to convey the seriousness of the issue, but also to get us to take action. That's what the cartoon is actually trying to do. Take action on this issue because it's a serious issue. It's hurting us, but also because we're responsible. Okay. So, we're at our topic sentence. Now, our question is, how does the cartoon play on guilt? How does the article emphasize the risk to humans? How are ethical concerns raised? Okay, they're the directions that we want to take because that is what we can flesh out in order to support our discussion of our topic sentence and thus our guiding question. Okay. And what I'm going to do here is show how you can flesh these ideas out, flesh this discussion out in a less vague way than what we've been doing in our practice. Okay. So we're going to focus on how does the cartoon play on guilt? How does the article emphasize the risk to humans? Okay, now it's difficult to see that because the first sentence here, and each of these sentences is just a revised sentence. Okay. So this first sentence here, the use of color within the piece makes people feel emotions with regard to the issue. Obviously, the question here is, what emotion? We have an actual technique. We have a visual technique, okay, which is color. Okay. But we want to say, okay, which emotion? That's one of the vague examples that we looked at and we flagged at the start of the video. Okay, so we get a bit further. Okay, we flesh it out a bit further. We identify that it's sadness that is being generated here. So the use of color within the cartoon generates sadness in the reader with regards to the issue. Okay. But what is the color that's being identified here? It's not just any color, it's a specific color. It's blue. Okay, the plastic bag is blue. So by depicting the plastic bag as the color blue, the cartoon establishes a sense of despair. We've changed the word sadness here to the word despair. I think it's a better word. With regards to the environmental damage caused by plastics. Okay, awesome. Okay. So we have actually developed the sentence as we've progressed here. Okay. So as we have moved down that sequence, we're slowly getting more and more sophisticated. We're slowly getting more and more fleshed out. Okay. Now, in the next sentence, we would want to actually flesh that out a little bit more. Okay. And I've left that sentence there because I would like you to have a go, if you'd like to pause this video, at actually continuing on that sentence. Flesh it out a little bit longer. Okay. So I'll give you, stop the video now, have a go at actually working through that sentence, explain how the use of despair, the use of that emotion creates that seriousness? How does it make and convey the issue of plastic bags to be a serious issue? Okay. So here we are. So we have our blue topic sentence there. In order to highlight the very serious personal risk the issue poses, the cartoon draws upon personification in order to emphasize the personal role each individual plays in the accumulation of plastics in the ocean. By depicting the plastic bag as the colour blue, the cartoon establishes a sense of despair with regards to the environmental damage caused by plastics. Okay, this colour blue intersects with the personification of the plastic bag, weighing on each individual's personal responsibility and thus generating a sense of guilt for the viewer. So we've come back to the idea of guilt. We're slowly fleshing out how is that sadness, how is that despair used to create that urgency, to create that serious issue. This sense of guilt highlights this seriousness of the issue and the impact plastics are having not just on the environment, but also on the lives of people. Okay, some good analysis. Now we want to continue. We want to continue moving on. We want to continue to get the ball rolling. So some more fleshing out. The second panel shows the plastic bag waking up and looking in the mirror. By depicting a common everyday routine, the creator is able to create a connection with the issue in the lives of the readers. This is how personification is working to convey that seriousness. It's conveying the idea that we are a part of this issue because it's a part of our everyday lives. The plastic bag is waking up, looking in the mirror, on a rainy day, just like we might. So this is embedded in our everyday lives. This issue of plastics pollution is happening to us every day. This highlights the seriousness of the issue for readers as it emphasizes the notion that the issue may very soon impact readers' everyday lives. That is how you are conveying how personification equals risk to us as human beings, which equals urgency and seriousness and importance of issue. Okay. Now we want to move on. We want to move on to another visual technique. In this case, we're looking at the rain depicted on panels 1 and 2. The personification of the plastic bag intersects with the rain depicted in panels 1 and 2 in order to reinforce the urgency that is central to this issue. As a consequence, and then you would convey how that urgency reinforces that seriousness. Okay, so the rain could happen tomorrow. This issue could come to the forefront tomorrow. And every single time it rains, it's happened periodically. Every single time it rains, these plastic bags are waking up, killing our bird life, getting into our food chains, and harming us as individuals. So there's that cyclic nature that's being hinted at here. This is an issue that if you don't act today, if you don't act now, it's going to continue to happen. That cyclic nature of rain, the rain cycle, is also the plastic cycle. It gets washed and added to these gyres. And then, once you've had that discussion, you might move into a discussion of the last panel, where it says we are at war with ourselves in the last panel, reinforcing the idea that we, not as plastic bags, but we as human beings, are at war with ourselves. We're generating this plastic waste and it's killing us. We're at war with ourselves. You could look at the word war and you could show how war intersects with the personification. We still want to ingrain it in the use of visuals, but we're showing how those visuals maybe intersect with the use of the connotation of war. Okay? And that is going to be our body paragraph. Starting with personification and then interweaving other passages in there, always keeping at the back of our mind that this is about the risk to human beings and the urgency and the seriousness that's created by that. Okay, but remember, every single sentence here relates explicitly to that guiding question. Every single one. And our vague analysis is occurring when we're not actually embedding it in the specifics of the guiding question. So what is the emotion that's being generated, well, it's despair, it's guilt, it's sadness, whatever it is, that is what is creating the seriousness. It's serious because it's making us sad. That's as simple as it is. Okay. And then we're taking it a bit further. Okay, what's the visual that's being used here? We don't want to just say color. It's a little bit, could be any color. Okay? It could be the light blue of the water. It could be there's lots of colors there. You want to be specific about which color is actually creating this sadness, because you're being more specific, and it's going to lead to better writing. It also means that you don't need to write as much to explain what color it actually is, because you're going to have to explain that color eventually. You can't just say the color. You're eventually going to have to say it's the blue plastic bag. Okay. A lot of you were able to say, okay, color blue equals sadness. You weren't able to say how that sadness conveys the seriousness of the issue. That was what was missing. Okay. There's two parts here. One, it's being able to identify those techniques, but two, it's being able to connect those techniques to actually something that is explicit in the topic, explicit in the article, and links into that guiding question. Okay, so what will help us reduce vague discussion? 3 things. Always bring it back to the guiding question. Always. And there's multiple ways you can do this. 1, use explicit authorial choices and ensure analysis links back to the guiding question. In this case, the guiding question hints at visuals. We want to always bring it back to those visuals. Okay? Whether it's personification, whether it's color, whatever it is. Okay? You need to bring it back to that guiding question. And make sure that you're linking those visuals back to the actual seriousness of the issue. They're the 2 steps that you're taking here. Second, make your thesis and your ideas responses to the guiding question. Okay. And this is less important, I guess, for your paper 1, because really you're just providing a bit of a guide, you're traveling through the actual passage. Okay, but you still need to kind of be saying something about what the article's doing, about what it's saying, about what it's attempting to achieve. In this case, it's about the seriousness of the issue, but it could be anything. Okay? You still want to have it be focused, be centered. Okay? So continue to make links back to your thesis and ideas. Okay? That's how you make your body paragraphs cohesive. In the case of our body paragraph we're just looking at, it would be bringing it back to the human impacts, because that is the seriousness that we're looking at for that body paragraph. And we're traveling through that passage. What are the different ways that those human impacts are conveyed? And lastly, use quotes to provide links back to the source material. Okay, that's another way that you can make sure that it's always focused and is staying grounded, not vague, is by just providing links back to the source material. Please go away, practice this, practice this, practice this. Okay, make sure you're practicing looking at those guiding questions, because those guiding questions are really going to provide that grounding in focus. So practice, practice, practice. Send me your body paragraphs. Send me your little things that you've written. I'm happy to provide feedback. I'm about to upload a second video. This is vagueness in paper 2 essays. It's going to be shorter because some of the concepts are very similar, but that'll be out later today. Thank you for your time.